is the Rangers Journal Night.
Hello everyone, welcome to Thursday the 24th of April's edition of the Rangers Journal. I'm joined by Jock this evening. How are you, Jock?
I'm good, mate. Glad to be here.
Brilliant. So we're just waiting on Mitch, who's running late as usual. We'll see what his excuse is when he gets here. So, guys, this one tonight is very much just a Q&A. We're looking for plenty and as much interaction as we possibly can from the guys in the comments here. So we're looking for anyone, just any questions that you've got for the panel. First of all, please just get them in, and we're looking forward to hearing from everyone who's watching and participating. We'll try and get around as many questions as we possibly can. So, Jock, first question for you, mate, that I wanted to ask you is the appointment of the sporting director. How pleased are you with the appointment there?
Well, I'm just glad we've got somebody in the role, first and foremost, because we've sort of struggled with this appointment for months now, maybe even the best part of maybe 8 months. I think we're going back. Yep. It's been discussed and there's never been any real traction with it. So we finally got our man. Initially, everybody thought, kind of didn't really realise who he was or what he's done. But if you actually dig deeper, if you look online, there's plenty of information about him and the good work that he's done at Everton. So you know, he seems to be quite a high caliber candidate from what I'm looking at. He's got a hell of a lot of qualifications in terms of coaching badges, which is something I think Barry Ferguson, our current manager, has. So he definitely ticks a lot of boxes for us, and I say it's something that's long overdue, Ryan, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Looks as if we've got somebody that's got a decent CV. Certainly from the kind of forums and the reaction that we're getting from the Everton fans is that they're, saying that we've managed to get ourselves a very good coup for ourselves. Quite a few of them are disappointed that he's leaving on their side of things, part of their restructure. And there's the man, the myth and the legend, Agent of Chaos. Aye, yep. So better late than never, I suppose, mate. Eh?
Listen. Do I keep track of your timekeeping, hen?
No, because my timekeeping doesn't need track because it's absolutely A+, mate. That's why.
Well, I'll put it in my report card. Could do better then next time, shall we?
You should do that, mate. You should do that. We'll just put it down as a yellow card, mate. We'll put it down as a yellow card.
No, my fault you went AWOL for a fortnight. Imagine taking your family on holiday.
That's it, mate. That's it. It's tough at the top, pal. It's tough at the top. Right, let's get a first question in. Daryl Pursler's Blue Boots. I think this is quite an easy one. Is Umbro still owned by Mike Ashley?
No,
it's not as far as we know.
Essentially, it's Castor's cousin. Is the best way to put it. They're all under the same kind of family. Umbro's the nicer version. Castor and that will still be doing the dispatching and delivery aspect of it, but not the quality control aspect. So those of us of a larger persuasion will not need to size up about 3 sizes.
Jeez, I remember it was the orange strip that came out on the Seville. Remember we went to Seville in 2022 and they rushed out the orange one on the way out there. And I had I'm not going to say the size, but I had a certain size of strip, and I bought the same size of strip the following season. And you're talking a good 3 or 4 inches of a difference. It was actually apparently meant to be the same size of strip.
Well, every inch counts, Ryan.
Aye, so it's definitely not me getting bigger, it's definitely the strips getting smaller. But no, as far as we're aware, Umbro was owned by Castor. Now, Umbro was actually owned by Nike for a while. It didn't do too well under the Nike banner, so they flogged it on, and we believe that Castor picked it up there. So we've had quite a long affiliation with Umbro. I think Umbro was our sponsor for right through the 60s and the 70s, as far as I know as well. So we've got a long history with them.
I think as well, it's worth noting with Umbro, the only reason that Umbro got passed out from Nike, it was something to do with an NBA deal or something like that fell through.
Yep.
They were expecting to win the shirt sponsorship. The shirt sponsorship went to somebody else at the time. I think it was maybe Adidas.
Yeah,
that's why they acquired Umbro at the time. Because NBA teams every team in the league is made by the same supplier. So somebody else won the tender, but obviously Nike jumped the shark a wee bit by an Umbro a wee bit too early.
Yeah, so I think we've been leaked as well the potential away strip for next season as well. It looks as if it's pretty good. If it's an imitation, it's a pretty good imitation, to be honest. The guys went to a lot of effort to create a replica strip that's not actually there, so it looks as if we've got a leak there on that.
Do you know, it's a tidy strip. If that's the one that we're going with, it was a nice strip. You know, a fairly tidy strip.
Yeah, it resembles one that we had back in the kind of Carlin time. We were sponsored by Carlin. I think it's back in the early 2000s. But I don't know if I lazy design or going back towards vintage. So, but we'll see. We'll see what comes it. John, you mate, from Doug. So it seems Leeds might be getting rid of Daniel Farke. If that's pronounced his name, sorry if I butchered that. Farke.
There's an E at the end.
Sorry,
it wasn't your point. It wasn't your strongest point.
No, but he's not got one of those French accent apostrophes above it. So anyway, I had to put a Y if it was Farke at the end of it. So listen, any more of your Farke cheat, we'll just chuck you at the champion. Anyway,
so, we want the good-looking one speaking.
Aye, so if they shift him up north, would you welcome him? So if they were to place him up, I think he's in the running. I think he might be in the top 5 or 6, according to the bookies. So for you, Jock, is he one that potentially you would like to see up the road?
No, really, because I find it strange that Leeds are wanting to punt him, even though he's done the job and got them up. But I know, reading between the lines, that I think his Premier League record's not the best. So they're looking to try and get somebody else in to try and stabilise Leeds in the Premier League. Obviously, now that this 49ers group is coming in here, controlling stake of Leeds, would that not be a conflict of interest if they sack him for one, branch of their enterprise and then hire him in another? I don't know. For me personally, I'm not. It's not somebody I'm wanting to see at Ibrox anytime soon.
Yourself, Mitch, what's your thoughts on that, mate?
I think that's people putting 2 and 2 together and making 85, to be honest with you. I think it's the easiest of lazy links to get made because, and I touched on this, I think it was by Jock last week, I think there's an element across fan media, mainstream media, and everything else. People are a bit almost bored of the manager search now because it's went on for so long, but we all kind of knew it was going to be a bit of a protracted process with the whole takeover needing to get done first. Sporting director had to get put in, straight afterwards. Those pieces of the jigsaw are getting put together, and I think as the days move on, there's going to be, weird contenders that nobody's heard of, since this time last year or whatever, that came out to the. And I think one thing, that I'll touch on with the manager search is Kevin Thewell's appointment has mirrored the likes of Clement's, Coppins and stuff that mainstream media and most media knew nothing about it until it was basically done. Thewell wasn't a name linked in the press, he wasn't a name discussed about fan medias and stuff and then pretty much the board went, Patrick Stewart went, ta-da, here's what I made earlier for you. And I think that's going to be probably quite prominent across our overall recruitment on and off the pitch. I think we're not going to know anything that we need to know until there's something to know about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much for that. The whole, I don't even think we'll probably even recognise our manager's name when it comes in.
You can't say a prospective manager's name, so.
Well, that's very true as well. I mean, it took me about 3 or 4 months to get Cassini into my head. I couldn't get that X through my brain.
X going to give it to you.
Well, you remember, you even still get people calling him Gerard when his name's Gerard. So it's we still get people like 10 years down the line, he's still getting called Treverney when his name's Tavernier. So
that's people normally though by on the east coast of the city though that may very well have silver spoons.
That's it. But listen, they've all got chartered accountants certificates in the wall, so we can't slag them too much. Anyway, so next question. So squad wise, I don't think there's been much kind of really been said about who's going to be staying and going. Usually we're probably expecting a rough idea of who's coming. Is there anyone in particular for you, Mitch, that you would like to see moved on at the end of the season?
I think there's a common sense approach to the current squad of we have an idea of who is likely to be going and who's there's some certainties at the moment. I think you would assume all out of contract players probably moving on. I know Haggie's made his big, beating in the chest there, echoing Barry, when he spoke, after he spoke after the draw, where he said, my contract situation's not black and white, it's not done, it's not done either. I'd like to stay. That's one of these ones of time will tell, but I think we all know, unless there's a willingness on his part to shift down in the money aspect, then that's probably going to go the way we think we're going to go, and we'll probably offer him a gestured contract at that point of, to say that we've offered him something, so that he can't turn around and say I was never offered anything. But I think, likes of Tom Lawrence, likely to go. Hadji, likely to go. I think squad players, some of the ones that are already out on loan, they speak for themselves. They're probably already going. The likes of Ben Davis, Kieran Dowell. We know that Birmingham like them. We'll probably go one step further and say Birmingham love them, to be honest. They're probably going to go there, not for the money we would like, but I think that's a couple of these lost leading transfers that we just take the hat on it and go, do you know what? It's best for all parties. We've got the guts of 40 grand a week off the wage bill. It is what it is. Thanks for your time. But I think in terms of players that could be sold, and it hurts my feelings to say it, I could see Nico Raskin going. I could see Dessers going. It's all right, Ryan, I'll make you hold me as I cry. And then I can see Iggy possibly going. Butland probably going. Butland, I think, only goes if the money's right for all sides. I think when we all talk about wanting Butland to leave, people need to remember that man's on guaranteed money here. He's on a guaranteed, rumoured 38, 40 grand a week plus his bonuses and everything else. Unless an English club is going to say, you will be a starting goalkeeper, whether that be in the Championship with a newly relegated team or somebody just going into the Premier League, not too many clubs down south are going to be in a position to offer him that kind of money. Especially at 32-year-old with minimal resale value, unless it's a top 300 team down the Premier League for the Champions League spots for maybe somebody to make up the squad quota. To say, I tell you what, 50 grand a week to them's nothing, versus the Champions League money. But I think we have to be pragmatic now and accept that every player has their price.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Butland's probably you want to even just start with the clear out there. The Ibrox Channel podcast here is mentioning a massive clear outs there. So I actually had 15 names in the chat not so long ago, but I actually, regardless of how many we say, I think we'll get rid of at least 10 of the 15. My 10 also included the likes of Tavernier and Butland in there. It was a knee-jerk reaction after the Europa League game, obviously. Disappointment and stuff like that, so there was a wee bit of kind of rage on that, but I truly believe if we do get rid of 10, we need to bring in at least double that. I think we need to bolster our squad. I was on the phone with my mate earlier on, and we actually looked to see how many games we are expected to play. Now, there's a possibility that we'll play 12 European games if we have to do the 2 qualifiers, which we're expecting. We're going to need to pay 4 plus your 8 of the league side of things, so there's 12. You've got, I think it's 6 League Cup games if you make it to the final, 7 Scottish Cup games again if you make it to the final, not even considering the fact that you're going to have to, you could possibly get through the European side of things. So you're potentially, I think we'd worked it out, if a player was called up for international duty, you're looking at a 70-game season now for a player, if he remains fit and through, and obviously remains in favour of selection. So we've got to bolster our squad. I realistically think we need about 28 players to be able to compete, because at any one time we've always got about half a dozen guys injured. So to keep competition for places and keep people fresh, we really need to be going on recruitment surge. Joe, there was one I was going to ask you about. Doug's put in here, which was a link that we got today. Was about the boy Mulligan that was rumoured to say he's out of contract to the end of the season. He seems to have kind of stepped up a little bit since Luke McCowan obviously moved on from them earlier on in the season. I think he set up a goal when we played them recently up there. I think it was his cross that led to one of their goals. I think it was Murray's goal.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? If you know much about him, obviously, if you don't be scared to say you don't.
I can't say I know too much about him. To be honest, maybe only seen him whenever he plays against us, But if he's another homegrown player, it's something that we need to sort of stock up. And as you're saying there, we need squad players, and he seems to be doing all right anytime I've seen him play against us. He would more sort of be a standout in the games against us, really, isn't he, in that midfield? But if he's capable of playing right back as well, he's a utility player, which again is going to come in handy. And it's a free hit, and you're taking a player, you don't have to pay a fee. And he's going to get exposed to the European side of football, which is only going to be good for his career. So hopefully, he's going to kick on with the other guy we brought in from Dundee as well.
I mean, realistically, what's he going to be picking up at Dundee? £1,000 a week, tops.
Maybe £2,000 a week, tops.
Tops, absolute tops. So we bring him in on similar wages with obviously bonuses and appearance fees and whatnot loaded in. But if you're looking at it that we're playing a top level side in a European time, we've got ambitions to be starting to play against likes of your Napoli's, your Inter Milan's, your Bayern Munich. We're going away to them on the Thursday night, and we're coming back to a game at Ibrox on the Sunday. We're probably going to be playing the Saturday maybe against a Motherwell or a Dundee United. No offence to the so-called smaller teams, but you'd like to think we can tuck them away at Ibrox. This is where squad rotation needs to kick in. And signing guys like him, it might not be the most glorious signing in the world, but surely to Christ he can do a job, and it means that we're not having to play players again, because quite realistically we could be getting away the following week again. We've got massive games coming up, so we need to get a bit clever about this. I think when Navicat first came, there was talk of having two teams almost, a domestic team and a European team.
Yeah.
When he first came in, but we just obviously got to make sure that we're not stretching ourselves too much.
Picking teams was picking players up for around Scotland as well, because if he came in, he brought in Adamchuk, he brought in McCann, he brought in Billy Dodds. He went and he picked players from teams that could be part of a squad, and that's something that Rangers hasn't done, I'd say, for the best part of a decade, is pick up other players from within the league that can contribute as a squad.
Even Gordon Jury got a run under Advocate as well.
Yeah,
there's something that's really underrated with Mulligan as well. Mulligan at the age of 22 has already amassed over 100 domestic appearances. So he's played over 100 games, and between the SPFL, the Championship, League Cup football and stuff like that, he's 100 senior appearances. That's not some wee guy. Like, we're not. If you compare him, actually, the fairest comparable is probably Robbie Fraser. Two players, similar ages, similar positions. If I told you right now, I've got in box A, I've got a player that 22-year-old 100 appearances, but in box B, I've got a player that's made, let's call it 30 appearances at senior level. Which one would you be more interested in having in the team?
Exactly. It all goes for experience, definitely. So, next one here, CGM 55's brought this up, Ridvan and Sterling. I think obviously Sterling we probably need to admit for this, because you're not going to be able to sell a player on that's got such a significant injury. It's a really bad one that Dujon's taken, actually, and it's something that actually could potentially finish him. Unfortunately, he might not actually ever fully recover and be the player he was in the back of that. But Ridvan, I'm going to chuck Jeffy into this as well. I think we've got the ability to can't stay fit, but I think we need to be looking out there. I'm desperate to move on to left backs. I think our left backs are nowhere near good enough. You've seen Ridvan, I think, gave us half an hour last Thursday night, and lo and behold, shat the bed and just basically wanted to leave the park as soon as he possibly could, because he just didn't fancy playing against Nico Williams, in my opinion. I think he just didn't.
I'm going to completely disagree with that opinion. Barry Balls that we had that night. Barry told us that on the home leg that Ridvan played carrying a knock. Lo and behold, he pulled himself through for 60, 70 minutes, came off with another knock that Barry told everybody about post-match. That's why he didn't play in between domestic game.
Yeah.
And yet he still started him 7 days later, knowing that he still wasn't fully fit. That, to me, that's a manager selection problem. When you put a player in that you already know is carrying 2 injuries, within the space of a week, you're asking the player at that point to break down. I get the whole, stick on a helmet and run through the wall for your manager. Sometimes your manager's got to say, you know what, son, I'd like you in the squad, we'll pop you in the bench, and if I need 20 minutes from you, then I'll take 20 minutes from you. Yep. But don't start them in a game the size of that.
Yep. Jock, how would you rate Jeffy? Where would you see his? How do you rate his kind of first season at Ibrox?
I think the issue with Jeffy is you can see he's got ability, and you can see going forward he's got all the right attributes to be your modern day attacking fullback. But we still forget, what is he, 20, 21?
He's about
He's,
20-ish shy.
I don't think
22, I think, yes.
Barely had his first shave.
he's in that, like as Mitch was saying, you've got bracket A and bracket B of these players that have had that many games. He's still got so much to learn, I think, as on the defensive side of things, because you've seen this season a simple lack of concentration at this level he's playing at, and he's caught out, he's found out, and it's cost us between League Cup or Scottish Cup in Europe. There was chat at Chelsea earlier in the season when he was probably at his best form. I don't see that come to fruition now because obviously the rest of the season he's had. I think we keep him for another year. For considering the amount of money we paid for him, it's not a lot of money in this day and age. I think we keep him and try and get the right coach behind him and the right staff that can try and get an end product. So whenever he does make a defensive lapse, he can go up the park and he can make assists or he can get a goal because he didn't score. I think he's only scored this season, or if he has, he's mainly got one. His final end product is what's letting him down, I think, and I think that's been overshadowed by the defensive lapse because he's not contributing on the other side of the pitch. He's only been detrimental at the wrong side. I do think there's a player in there, and I do think it's something that I think we just need to try and pull out of him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but probably could reference it back to Barisic's first season at Ibrox. Barisic actually ended up at one point being the third choice left back behind Andy Halliday and John Flanagan at one point. I think if it wasn't for a free kick he scored against St Mirren and Paisley, I don't think his Rangers career would have actually taken off at all. So you probably got to give him some sort of leeway, but there's a lot of room for improvement. Sorry, mate, carry on.
No, Yefty's a wee anomaly, I think, and I don't think his case is cut and dry. CJM's touched on it there. He was brought in somewhere as a squad player, stroke project player in that in-betweeny bracket, where he was going to make first-team appearances, but he was probably not expecting to be playing the majority of the season as a starting left-back. Yeah. And that's been through no fault of his own, been through squad problems, injury problems, is what it is. The boys basically had to serve quite a harsh apprenticeship this season. And I'll be honest, I'm still not entirely convinced he's a left-back and not a left-winger. Because when you watch him defend, the defensive aspect of being a defender should be defence first, attack second. His mindset's the opposite way around. He's attack first, defend later. And he's all right at 2021, you can get away with that when you've got the legs to do it. Fast forward 10 years, you have a Tavernier situation where you can't get the legs to get back to yourself, so...
Right, well, you've taken me nicely onto this then, right? So, Jock, you go first on this. So, Tavernier, keep or sell?
Are you going to get much money out of him selling them? At this point, probably not, unless you hope a Saudi club comes in or another Turkish team comes in with a cheeky, take it or leave it kind of bid. I would just let Tav finish his season out and just let him usher, have him this season as the captain with the new takeover and a new manager. If the new manager incoming wants Tav to be captain, he might not. I would just let him see it out and just finish his career here. Because I don't imagine, unless he maybe goes to America or something, unless somebody might suit him and the family more to go over there. Because I don't think we'll get much money for him now. If we were selling him, we should have sold him last year. Fenerbahce came in, I think, for him, didn't they?
Trabzonspor, wasn't it?
Trabzonspor. That was the time to sell him, if anything.
It's just out there. I think Gerrard was rumoured to be interested in taking him out to Saudi Arabia as well, but this will be his testimonial year as well.
It was also a weird rumour that never seemed to go away either, but never came to anything.
But I don't know I think Stuart McCall was the last player that played for us, or maybe it was Ian Ferguson, that actually got a testimonial for us for 10 years service. So it's not to be sniffed at. You know, there's obviously, I think he'll be long remembered for a guy that's Celtic, but if you actually, you know, when your grandkids come and speak to you about this guy Tavernier that seemed to score all the goals and all the penalty kicks, I don't know what I'll say to them about him. It's a tough one.
I sit my foot in two camps on him. He's not been the biggest problem of our season, but he's also not been a problem this season. Do you get what I mean? Like, we get what we get from him. His legs are what they are. If there's a decent offer that suits all parties for him to go, awesome. He could also turn around and tell us all in the summer, look, this is my contract year, and actually at the end of next season, I'm hanging the boots up here. Because let's not forget, he's going to be, 34 during the course of next season? I'm not being funny now. As somebody who is 34, the prospect of playing, you know, a full pre-season and then going to go and play a 40, 50, 60 game season, that's no filling my legs with confidence. You know, albeit I'm no athletic, we know this. But that's why Ryan's going to do the multi and no me. But, like, I think if he stays, I think there's merit in him staying in terms of as a squad player and maybe that the old reliable backup of if we need him, he's there. And we know that the engine's there to do 30 plus games over the course of a season. I don't think it necessary, but it has to be, if he stays for me, it has to be a transition of you will not be captain, you will not be an automatic first name on the team sheet. You will very much be in the wind down era at that point, and it's the succession plan of, as you say, whether that be Mulligan, whether that be Sterling when he's fit, whether that be insert player X. Player X is going to be first choice, and you're going to be his dance partner, you know, when he needs a break.
I think we've seen situations before where captains have been regarded as club captains, but not necessarily team captains. You know, somebody. So that, you know, guys are wearing an armband on the park, but these other guys are still in the building. So if not Tavernier, we've got a couple of examples here of people who would maybe like. Nathan Patterson's obviously could be spoken about, given the fact that we've now got Everton's former sporting director in, and a guy that could be maybe easily forgotten about as well is Casemiro, who unfortunately lost through injury. So either these guys get you talking, Jock, as far as a replacement for Tavernier is concerned? Is that something that just, do they spring to mind when you're thinking about it?
Casemiro's another one because he's a freebie, isn't he? His contract's up, so
there's a fee involved for him, mate.
Was there?
There will be, because he signed the New Year's extension before he came here.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Then no, because of the injury. I wouldn't. A player that's got an injury like that, I'd rather he goes somewhere else and gets his recovery season, you know, done and dusted.
I think also that's the second time he's done his cruciate as well, as far as I know.
That's not
3 knee injuries, and he's not even 22.
That's not a good sign, is it?
Like, I know it's the second ligament one, but third knee injury.
Yeah,
not being funny. That knee's going to be held together by, you know, hopes and prayers at this point.
Kamaru's probably got a better set of knees.
Patterson, I think Patterson's injury record's not been great down at Everton too. He's you know, it's I think you kind of want to see more of Patterson in a Rangers shirt before he left, but obviously we got the big fee, and we finally fitted the model that we're crying out for. Sell at the right time, sell at the highest value, and that. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I don't imagine Patterson coming back and coming straight in to be our starting right back. I do think we'll probably look elsewhere, if I'm being honest.
Yep. Mitch, I'll throw this one out at you. This has been chucked in by Weezander, which I think is a really good option. Max Johnson. So playing at Sturm Graz in Austria, I think.
I think that ship sailed, personally. Like
another one.
You know, and I think we also have to be careful not just as a fan base, but in Scotland itself.
Yeah,
we've got a bit of a history of romanticising players that have done well at a youth level here and then moved on elsewhere, whether that be Austria, Italy, Germany, Portugal, places like that. Some of these players are actually, it's okay to say they were too good to play in Scotland. You know, for the sake of their own career. It's all right to say, actually, the best thing, you look at Lewis Ferguson. Lewis Ferguson, for example, if he signed for us, for my money, I don't think he would have turned into half the player that he's turned into out in Italy, because Italy went, do you know what, right now we've got a Volkswagen, but we're going to turn it into an Audi. And that's exactly what they've done with him. Wrong car analogy, for Italy, but apologies, but, it's late. But I think when it comes to Max Johnson he's a really good quality signing. I really do think he would be a good signing. But there's already rumours that the big two in Portugal are sniffing about him. And I'm not, I don't know about you two, but the rumour transfer fee is £5 million plus. I'm not really wanting to get into a penalty shootout, over £5 million plus for Max Johnson to come back to Scotland.
Yeah. A fee and a half for a meal, somebody said for that one. Joe, this is one here. We'll move into kind of thinking about centre halves and stuff. Connor Cody's been mentioned here as a centre half. Connor Cody went to Leicester. I think it was a free transfer. I think it might even been the start of this season. I'd have loved to sign Connor Cody. From what my understanding is, he did go to the World Cup with England, and although he didn't play a single minute, he was loved by absolutely everybody around the building. Really kind of a motivated player, and although his participation wasn't on the park, his participation was off the park. Is that somebody, obviously with Leicester being now relegated, is that something that would interest you?
Was he at Wolves, wasn't he?
No, I think it was Wolves. I thought it was Leicester.
No, he started at Wolves.
Listen, if we're bringing in people that have played most of their careers in the Premier League, that's the right sort of league we want to target, because that's the quality that we want to be bringing up here, because they should essentially stroll this league, because the Premier League's the most athletic and most competitive league in the world, and if these boys are able to do that down there, and if they come up here, they should take this league within their stride, really.
Yeah. I'm looking at Balogun's wages. I'm looking at Proper's wages, and chucking at Cody. So I think that would be a great signing.
I think Connor Cody would be an okay signing. I think he's 32-year-old, so I think we need to preface that and say he does bring a wealth of experience. He's made well over probably about 200 Premier League appearances over the course of his career. 32-year-old for a defender, let's be honest, isn't massively overly old for the position that he plays in. And I think as well, physically, he's not had any major nasty knocks or anything. The only thing I would say about something like Connor Cody is quite possibly the money involved. You'd assume somebody with 200 plus Premier League appearances is getting paid a proportionate wage to 200 plus Premier League appearances. I wouldn't mind them, but I think as well, I'm pretty sure he's also still got another year or two in his contract at Leicester as well.
Yeah. I've just popped in one as well that sprung to mind just when we're talking about Leicester was thoughts on Harry Souttar. I think that would be a good sign. I'm just actually farting about here, sorry, to see where actually Souttar's playing. I think he did move on.
You're farting about, is it?
No, not really. Not so. I'm just trying, but I know he was
professional like Jock.
Or where's Doug when we need him? Right, he's at Sheffield United on loan just now, who are actually playing quite well in the Championship. Just obviously narrowly missed out on automatic promotion. I think they lost a game against Plymouth, which more or less ended, but they'll be in the playoffs this year. According to Wikipedia, he's played 21 games this year. But do you think playing next to his brother would bring the best out in John Souttar, Jock?
I think it would be interesting. It'd be good to see, because it's not something you really see much in football now. A duo of brothers in a team like that. I think the last sort of thing we had that was the De Boer brothers, weren't they? They both played in the same team for a handful of games. As Avocat was prepping him for I think for his last Euros or the last World Cup. I think
it was the World Cup. It was McLeish actually.
McLeish.
Aye, McLeish signed Frank de Boer on a 6-month deal from Barca on loan just to get him. He wasn't playing at Barca.
Avocat was on the board, didn't he? Avocat went upstairs, didn't he?
Aye, he was upstairs. Aye, so there was basically de Boer wasn't playing for Barca, and he's placed in the Dutch World Cup squad was in jeopardy, so he agreed to come to Rangers.
Aye, I remember that. So yeah. I don't see. He's playing at a decent level. He plays for Australia, doesn't he?
It does.
Yeah.
I think they've got one of their parents is Australian, one of their parents is Scottish. They're born and raised in up in the kind of Brecon area. Both rumoured to be blue at heart as well. So I don't think it would be hard to deal with as far as wages and all these kind of things concerned, how you would structure this deal. If a player actually wants to sign for you, you don't need to do too much on it. It's a similar kind of deal, if you were talking about Shankland and stuff. Boys are saying here in the chat that he's rumoured to be out injured. So
his Achilles.
100% we're signing him then. He's injured, right? Let's get him in the medical. It'll be announced tomorrow. We've got a world-class medical department. What are you worried about?
Jock's going to be surgeon. It's fine.
100%. Right. Moving on. Aribo's been chucked in here. Obviously, Southampton, really poor season for them. I think he'd be interested to move back up the road if funds became available and an offer came in for him.
No,
I don't think so either.
I think I'm trying not to bite here because I can feel myself biting. I think we, again, as a fan base, need to stop romanticising the players of yesterday. Joe Aribo's went to Southampton. The Southampton fans love him. They blame Russell Martin for what happened to him in the Premier League this season for not starting him and not doing it. He also left us to go to Southampton for about 65, 70 grand a week. Now, I'm not being funny. If somebody offers you to take a 50 grand a week pay cut to come back up the road, I'm quite sure there's somewhere between their legs you're going to hoof them for the mere suggestion.
It starts with F and ends in uck off.
Exactly. Can you stop swearing, please?
I never swore. I said F.
Not in front of Jock.
Sorry, I never.
Can't believe you.
No.
But no, I think players like Aribo and all that, we need to thank them for the time that we had them, enjoy them while we had them.
Yeah.
And it's great to watch their careers from afar now to say, brilliant, we guys really kicked on for yourself, because that's a testament to how well they done with us. We gave them the fundamentals, and that then shows to other clubs we've got the fundamentals to take these players of 20, 21, 22, mould them into experienced seasoned pros by their mid-20s, that you can lift them and lay them straight into your first team, whether that be in the Prem, Holland, Germany, and you can get them for, let's be honest, a relatively good market value compared to, if you said, Joe Aribo, you take everything he was doing with us and you put him as a Borussia Dortmund player. He's not going for the money that he left here for. He's going for 2-3 times that.
Yeah.
There will always be the Scottish snobbery when it comes to, transfer values. And I think one of the big things we'll probably see implemented into future transfers for me should be percentage sell-ons. Go down that sporting route, go down the Benfica sporting portal route, where you say, that's fine if you don't fancy paying me £40 million today for player X. That's fine, you can pay me 20 million quid. We'll put a 20% sell-on fee in there. So when you flip him for £80 million, we get paid again.
Yeah, that model's good. I think when we played Benfica last season, there was a stat kicking about that something like Benfica had made something like £1 billion in the last 5 years in transfer fees. We just,
money laundering scheme in the world is Benfica.
There's nothing money laundering about it at all. So you'll get us shut down. Accusations like that.
What they do? They go to South America and they go, I'll take you, and you from the best academies, pop them in, give them a wee bit of first team experience, loan them out to other. They do the thing that we're afraid to do. You loan them out to other teams in the same league as you.
Yeah.
Get them half a season, full season on loan there. Then they go, do you know what? Some of these non-top 5 leagues in Europe are interested in, interested in these, I would call it surplus players under there. And then you're getting paid £8 million for a player that realistically was never going to play for you.
But the thing with Porto, Benfica, Sporting Lisbon, the attraction of that, if they go around South America, I'm sure they'll have academies all over the place. And the transition with bringing players in from that side of the world, obviously Portuguese is the number one language in Portugal. There'll be a certain amount of it. There'll be plenty of Spanish speakers. There's guys that I know that just live up the road who don't understand what I'm saying. So how are they going to, established, acclimatised himself in Scotland compared to there. You look at Jose Cifuentes as a prime example of a player who came from America via LA, sort of South America, and straight away was greeting about how cold it was, and he was off to Greece packed within 6 months. So he's probably one that we'll probably talk about as well. Here's Dado Purzlo, Blue Boots put one on here. That boy that I was want to speak to you about as well was Gio Reyna. I was told that from quite a good source that we were actually linked with Gio Reyna when Van Bronckhorst was the manager. That he was more or less signed up, but Borussia Dortmund had to sign a replacement for him. He'd not long come back from an injury, and they were quite happy to send him here on loan as part of his kind of rehabilitation from the injury. But they wanted to sign a replacement to basically conclude the deal part. Obviously, the chain and knock-on effect of that, but couldn't sign somebody and it fell through. But he's somebody, again, that's been quite heavily linked. It's even been spoken about in the American press and the American media. What's your thoughts on that one, Jock?
Again, I think this is going to, as you say, it's like a lazy link because obviously the Rangers connection with his dad and stuff. But I obviously didn't know that it was that far down the line with him. I actually watched a thing there the other day, and it was two American guys chatting on some sports network thing over there, and they were saying that they could see it happening, that he could come here, but I think the people around him want him to go to a better league than ours, basically. To get his fitness back and get him playing games again, because he's not been playing much for Dortmund. I think he was injured as well. I think they said he was coming back from an injury as well. So, I mean, he hit the ground running when he broke into Dortmund, didn't he? Quite young, at 16, 17, I think he was getting games for them. And there was the ceiling was massive for him, and then it's kind of really halted with injuries and whatnot. So, yeah, he has ability, has talent. It could be another case, could be another Tillman scenario. He comes in, does well, and then pisses off somewhere else because he's going to get better money elsewhere and he's going to get a better caliber league.
Yeah, is that one too romantic for you, Mitch?
I'm just not having it. Like, just putting the foot down there. Like, he's got an injury list longer than my takeaway order. Like, let's just put that out there. Injury list is honestly horrific for a boy that's only, 22, 23? I don't even think he is 23 yet.
Yeah.
If he wants to go out to America, I tell you what, son, we'll get your plane ticket for you so that you don't come here. He's another that's on pretty big wages, comparative to what we pay. I think he's on 20 to 30 grand a week or something out there.
Yeah.
If you want to go to LA and go and make that kind of money, you crack on, son. But I do think he's a player that will wind up not in LA and not in our league. I think he's probably more likely to stay in a top 5 league somewhere. And I could see him even going to the likes of, what's the Italian team that's owned by the mad Romanian guy now? The mad Genoa. Something like Genoa. If he's available for a kind of cut price deal, then somewhere like Genoa we need to make a couple of statement signings. Someone like him is a great statement signing to them because of the name value attached. And for someone like Genoa as well, he makes his money back commercially for what they'll shift in shirt sales. Over in the likes of America and stuff like that, they can plant a couple of seeds or whatever. And if it doesn't work out, let's be honest, top 5 league teams don't struggle to make their money back on players like Gio Reyna if you spent, say, £2 million on them. Someone else will say, whether that be, let's look at a bottom tier, bottom half of the table Spanish team will go, £2 million. Right, that's fine, we'll take him.
Us? Look at Dessers coming from Cremonese.
Do you mind, Jock was trying to say something to me there, Ryan?
No, Ryan, just Genoa was the team that these two Yanks were talking about. That was the team that they thought he'll go to. That was the one that they recommend that he'll probably end up at, was Genoa.
It's my crystal ball, mate.
Genoa or Glasgow? What would you choose?
Life of canoes, mate, and a bit of sunshine versus freezing cold, soaking 300
half pizza crunches and bottles of bucky on a Saturday night.
Exactly. Missing out on the pizza crunch. I'm desperate for a pizza crunch.
Moreover, son, there's room in the inn.
Yeah. There was one plug in here. Jean-Luc Dompe. I think I'm butchering all these names today. Correct me on this one again, mate. From HSV from Hamburg. I think this is the boy who plays centre midfield for them, isn't it? So
I can't say I know a huge amount about him. other than the fact that I know that he was a player that was quite well, he's quite well thought of and quite well thought after, but not seen much of him play, so I can't really form a proper opinion on him.
Yep. Right, moving on to strikers. So probably the only one that's worth any kind of money moving on is Eagleman. Dessers, I would imagine there'll be a couple of suitors in for him again. So it's a difficult one. Numbers wise, obviously, he'll be picking up a decent wage. He's coming up to his 30th, and he's still got a couple of years left in his contract. So if there's anything that we can actually get out of him, money wise, so the player trading model, what have you, this is probably the junction in which we do it. Danilo, I think, is one we should be looking to move on if we can, as best we possibly can. He's just not recovering from these injuries, and it just seems to be going as well. And obviously, there's a guy that plays for a team across the other side of the M8 that's going to be coming up in a free transfer, who we all know is red, white, and blue, and we probably walk over broken glass to sign for Rangers. Lawrence Shankland. Speaking obviously, right at the start of the show, I said we need to bolster the squad, and we need to sign probably about 20 players if we're going to be looking to complete all fronts. Is this the one? Shankland still in the radar? Is that ship away as well?
I think so. I think if you're looking for somebody who's knows how to score goals in Scotland and will be part of that squad and be part of the collective that you want to build a successful season with, he's your ideal candidate, isn't he? He can score goals for fun when he gets the right service. He'll get a service at Rangers. It's simple as that. Now, whether it's being a starting player or as it's coming off the bench or starting every other game, he'll score goals for us. And as you say, he's a well-known blue nose, and we're going to get him on free. So I think we'll lose one of the Danilo or Dessers, and we'll bring him in, and we'll probably bring somebody else in. I've seen somebody saying there that Danilo needs to go first. I think we're going to struggle to sell Danilo with the season he's had. I think we need to give Danilo games, and we need to give him an opportunity this season to try and get the stock back up where folk are going to take interest. He can actually do a job when he's fit. So I think, like you say, Dessers is probably the one that's going to go because his market value is probably the highest it's going to get at the moment. So,
yep. Mitch, what's your thoughts, Lawrence Shankland?
Next. I've got nothing positive to say about it. Like, nothing. I think he's had a honking season.
Has he though? Because he's been played as a number 10, not a number 9.
Yes, and he's also about 10 stone too heavy to be playing, but that's a separate question.
Said the pot to the kettle. Okay.
Well, exactly, but I'm not getting paid money every week to go and play football, am I? Let's call a spade. I think also the rumours are as well he's close to joining Wigan, and he's also got interest in Turkey. He might even get a hair transplant in the process while he's going. I think Shankland's another player that people within the fan base haven't watched an awful lot of him play this season, and will still clamour on to the hope from 18 months ago that Shankland would be an amazing player for us, or a great functional squad player. Shankland, athletically at his age, is also on a physical decline. And I'm not saying that Dessers is the answer just before anybody thinks that, I'm anti-selling Dessers. I've said this multiple times in the season. If the money was right for all parties, the deal will be done. I will cry. Ryan will hold me. It'll be beautiful. It'll be fine. But I also think if we're in a marketplace that we sell Dessers, we also need to remember those numbers are incredibly hard to replace on the same sort of value that Dessers is on, in terms of wages, age. Iggy, I think one of the strikers will probably go. I think one of the strikers will leave, one of the three. I don't think that's unfeasible to say one. And I think it's one of these. Shankland, for me, there is much better options out there that we've already covered in the Coppin report. That you can go out and get boys out there for $1.5 million or less, relatively cheap wages that are going to give you much better options.
That boy that plays in the K-League looks incredible, mate. What's his name?
Which one? Because we've covered a few.
It's not the Malaysian boy, the young Malaysian boy. It's the winger. It's the boy that scores all the goals in the K-League. I can't remember his name. One of the boys that's probably watching the Goblin Report will tell us. He looks unreal, to be honest. I'd love to sign him. It's just having the guts to go and do it.
I think the one player that irks me that we never got him last season was that Razmani. He ended up going off to Slavia Prague, I think it was.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
Neil Lennon killed that, but Neil Lennon took the manager's job on. No chance it was happening.
I know, and then seeing how that worked out for him, you know what I mean? Apparently defecating in training grounds, but that's a separate issue. Can't think about yellow beef teeth.
Yeah. Listen, just to finish off on the Shanklin conversation, this is one for CGM 55. If we signed Shanklin last January, we'd have won the league. I have 110% on that. If we'd actually met their asking price, 4 or 5 million quid, whatever it is, we go and he scores the goals that wins us the league, and we take all that Champions League money. That 5 million quid would be an outlay that I got is 10 times that probably in the Champions League waiting. Just another one that's just been flung in here as well, as far as strikers are concerned, was announcement today that Jamie Vardy is going to be leaving at the end of the season for basically he's done his time at Leicester now and he's going to be moving on. Any thoughts on Vardy at all there, Jock?
I've been interested in one sort of come full circle because I think Coisty tried to bring him in. He was told we didn't have enough money to sign him, and that was when he was down at Fleetwood. What a signing he could have been at the time. Maybe come in and kind of like a Defoe kind of sort of vibe, that late coming at the side of your career, but still able to find the back of the net when it's needed. Be interesting to see how much money he's on. They need to put a gagging order on his missus because she's a riot.
A week.
No way. Seriously?
Yep. He's on a legacy contract with Leicester at £140,000 per week.
That's a lot of cans of Red Bull.
I was just going to say, we need Red Bull to sponsor him so we can get him in then.
Yep.
For me, it's that. Do you know, right, if we want to talk about older Premier League players that we could maybe have got, that they would have done as a turn, the one player we actually missed a trick on was probably Chris Woods.
The Zealand boy.
When he left Newcastle to go to Forest, and a lot of people turned their nose up at, when Chris Woods went and they went, oh, how dare he go across there? What a terrible signing. Look how that worked out. I don't think Vardy goes anywhere near Scotland, but it doesn't matter which side of the city. I think one of the newly promoted teams are going to turn around and say he's obviously going to take a wage cut. That's a given. He signed the contract that he's on now, I think, just after the Champions League campaign. So that this is how far a legacy contract that he's on. Yeah. I think he's probably still going to pick up upwards of 50k a week, easy, down in England. And if you're somebody like Burnley, for example, who have struggled traditionally to score goals the last time you were in the Premier League.
Yep.
But if you've got a Premier League striker who's scored over 100 Premier League goals going, that can offer some experience to quite a young squad as well, it doesn't need to play every week. You play him against the big, the top 10, and you can play the youngsters against the bottom 10. And Jamie Vardy helps you pick up those points that you struggled to pick up the first time round for a relatively low fee.
I see him somewhere like a Wrexham, because obviously there's a good chance that they're going to come up from League One. Yeah. Plenty of money kicking about with the two guys that are backing them. So somebody like Wrexham would probably pick him up. They've obviously got Stephen Fletcher at the moment as well. Who's
that's where I think Tom Lawrence will wind up.
Aye, good chance of that as well. Yeah, definitely. I think when you were talking about kind of Chris Woods, Kiefer Moore, playing for Sheffield United, the Welsh striker, would be somebody that would be maybe just a big, strong, powerful boy. Doesn't need to be particularly skillful or great, just needs to be kind of target man, somebody that can hold the ball up. Might be an option for us if Sheffield United, I'm saying if Sheffield United don't get promoted, but even if Sheffield United do get promoted, they might look to better their squad. I don't think he plays every single week for them. Anyway, listen, moving on to the last but not least, we're just coming up 54 minutes. We'll touch on this briefly. We've got plenty more coming out on the next big appointment, the club manager wise. So, Jock, Manager, your choice. I'm just going to start chucking some names from the comments here. I asked the guys to put these in. So, Nancy, there, Papson, yourself, who are you thinking?
I think that I was said to my uncle the other night there. I says, if you're an investor taking over 51% share of a club, you're going to want to bring somebody in that knows the league, knows the club, knows how to communicate with the fans, and knows how to win trophies or a trophy in this league. Who is it? Steven Gerrard, isn't it? The easiest option. He's not working. Bring him in. Let him get to work. I think that will be the case. It might not be, I don't think it's who I want personally. I think I want something different. I want someone with a brand of football. But if I'm an American company and I'm looking for a subtle transition in ownership, that's the man you go and get, isn't it?
Yeah. Mitch, yourself?
I don't think it'll be Gerrard, personally speaking. Everything that he's said since returning back to the UK screams, I can't take a job just now. And we know that there's various tax implications for him just now and the complexities behind that overall situation. But I think if you're the 49ers group coming in, everything that was done yesterday, you want to leave it as yesterday. You know, and that includes managers. And I mean, I get in the last 5 years, we've went through a fair few of them. Like, I think, for me, of the names mentioned so far, I do like the likes of Casper Humeland. I like the names of likes of Brian Frisk. I like Marco Rose being mentioned. I will say I will big up Ur Gordon, who does a lot of work in the background there. Papson's a great choice, I think. But I think he's too much a risky option for the club just now in terms of the new owners will want to give us a name that will be kind of familiar to most people. I'm not saying something that's going to be a stellar name, like it's not going to be Mourinho, let's just be honest here.
Yeah.
It's not going to be I think again, Jock, you might have been on the podcast where we spoke about there's a 3-tier shopping market for managers of you want the worldies, the Mourinhos and those big brand names. That's bracket A. We ain't shopping in bracket A. You want that young, attractive, good quality manager that's coming through, but not quite ready to take a top 5 league job. That's probably that marketplace that we're shopping in right now, or those maybe slightly older managers that, and I'm talking under 55 before anyone thinks I'm wanting a pensioner in the dugout or anything. Like under 55 has had a solid career, not a spectacular, but just solid career. I think, much like, and I said at the top of the pod there, I think the manager that we get in, I don't think is going to be anybody that's been mentioned up to this point yet, because everything that we've done recruitment-wise over the last 2 years suggests that nobody knows a thing about it. And it's going to be a name that literally is going to pop up. It might be somebody that somebody stumbled upon perfectly, but I think it's going to be a happy accident if somebody stumbled upon it. That's not being arrogant or anything about it. That's just even when it comes to player signings, internal recruiting and stuff like that, we've been very good at keeping the cards close to the chest about we won't know anything until it's pretty much already signed.
Yeah, I think that's there. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that we're unlikely to have heard of them. I was aware
in terms of like in the bookies. I mean, in terms of like bookie odds and stuff. Like, I don't mean in terms of like we're not whipping out like we Walder Mitty or anything like that for under the counter to say here's this wee guy that's been managing in Kazakhstan for 3 years or anything. Like, I think it's going to be a name, but maybe not one that's been mentioned in the build up to actually appointing one.
Yeah. I was starting to, I think it was Monday we were talking about it, and if you'd asked me at the start of the pod, I was all for Steven Gerrard. Somebody then talked me into the boy Knutsen for Bodo Glimt, and I finished the pod by wanting Muscat. I can't make my mind up. I just want somebody that's going to come in and just not make a mess of this. Actually, just come in and be a safe pair of hands as well. Really, and just I'm not wanting a Mourinho, a show. I'm not wanting a Benitez who's just coming to pad his pension. I'm looking for somebody that's getting somebody to prove. Muscat for me ticks a lot of boxes in the fact that he's won the Jap League, he's won the Chinese League, ex-player as well, so he's aware of the circumstances of the club and aware of the expectations of the club. Plays a brand of football that I think would get people back to the stadium and get people excited to actually come to Ibrox again. I'm not looking for somebody that's going to come and say it's no boring football that we're going to go out and win 1-0 and it's going to be we'll score a goal and it's 10 men behind. I want to go and actually I want to go back to Ibrox and go to the Billy Hills and say Rangers are going to win 5-0 a day, rather than me going up and saying put my sensible bet on it 1-0 and 2-0 and stuff like that. It's just
other betting sites are also available.
Aye, but even from a commercial aspect as well, it's a lot easier to sell a team commercial wise. If the guys are on the phone trying to sell all the boxes and all the booths and the hospitalities and all that stuff, it's easier to phone up and say, do you fancy coming to Ibrox and Saturday to see Rangers win 5-0? Or do you fancy coming to Ibrox and Saturday to see Rangers struggle against a low block? It makes lots of sense. Jock, you get anyone in mind yourself, mate?
I don't know. I like the idea of Muscat and his brand of football, but as somebody says there, we've pied him once. I don't imagine, unless he maybe takes to the new ownership and maybe he can put that to one side and put his personal pride to one side and come again. I don't know. Like yourself, I think Mitch is right. I think it's going to be somebody maybe we don't know of or maybe we're not really sure of, but he's right, and it has to be in that shopping bracket B where up and coming or has maybe been there and sort of flew under the radar in other leagues but has won something. We need somebody who comes in and just hits the ground running. But that, who's going to do that?
I think what the new manager has, and I think this is something that as a team, like as an overall club, this is where I think this summer's so important on and off the field. We've all spoke about squad mentality and stuff like that, and Barry's done a great job in terms of the chest beating and you play at the final, you play at the final whistle. And I would like to think that's maybe his closing legacy, or he's inserted, pardon the expression I'm about to use here, but he's inserted some balls into the players that you play from whistle to whistle and you don't stop moving until, tactically we can call it what it is, it's a bit of a shambles, but we get there, I think this is why, though, the recruitment aspect of manager and squad, this has to be a fresh start for everybody. As a team, as fans in the stands, as owners, it needs to be a complete everything out, and I think that's probably why, as we touched on, we could have anything up to 10 to 15 players come in, and it could be just as many that go out. I still think there will always be one or two players left over because it's nature of football. We're not going to solve every problem in one window, but there is the bare bones of a squad that's now, that squad's already been decimated, not decimated as such, but picked apart, and we've now got a kind of core nucleus of young players, some experienced players, and some in-betweeny players. Like, for me, Connor Barron as a squad player at this point of his career, he's not a starter. And I think that was the role he was brought in for as the squad player, and the way this season's went, as he's ended up being a starter, it is what it is. But it's also all right to say that he's a good squad player, because he is only 23, 24 years old. If we can sign a 27-year-old player that's played in a good top 5 league somewhere, bit of experience about them, that can help guide him in the pathway, yes, we don't make the money on the 27-year-old, but he brings that winning mentality from elsewhere that brings Connor Barron up, which then brings his transfer value up, which is where we make the money on.
Yeah,
and I think that's why it's so important.
I think we're missing. We didn't ever really replace Stephen Davis in the middle of the park. We missed that experienced head in the middle of the park that, if things are just a bit hectic, a bit frantic, that you just stick an old guy in the middle of the park and just say, look, go on and just going to see that game out for us and just calm things down and control the game. So, and obviously that's going to help like your Barron, it's going to help your Bailey Rices of this world just go on and become better, arguably Nico Raskin as well. So, anyway, guys, we could be here all night. We need to think about wrapping up as well.
I'll be with you all night anytime, son.
You just text. You just text and we'll get a FaceTime after this. Right. Anyway, sorry. Got final thoughts, mate?
No, thanks for having me. Great chat. Interesting couple of weeks coming up into it. The football will probably be crap, but everything else off the pitch is going to be exciting. And I just want this takeover to be done and sealed so it can shut up certain people on a certain side of the city, and we can be like, we didn't just do it for season tickets.
Yeah. Mitch, final thoughts, pal?
Can we just get to the end of the season so we can be happy again?
I know. Get Thanos on the phone. We want the time stone.
Like, in all honesty, I think final thoughts, the next few weeks are going to be what they're going to be. We all know second place is already pretty much in the bag. We're kind of more or less there. It's pretty much done, I think, now mathematically. Might be wrong. But,
Saturday.
You know, it's one of these, it's done. The end of the season's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be very much last day of school vibes, I think, you know, for the last few games of the season. Make the announcement, have done with it. You know, let's be honest, it's the fart in the space, so everybody knows who's done it and everybody knows it's happening. You know, let's just have it said when legally we can all, you know, when the legalities are all done, and let's just get the bloody ball moving into next season. Because one thing that the new owners can't say they haven't had is time.
Yeah.
You know, they've had all this time for the takeover getting done and all the bits and bobs, and if rumours are true, they've had some bodies, you know, some boots on the ground early doors, quite similar to obviously how it happened with the is it the Franklin Group or something that bought Everton? When they bought Everton, they had boots on the ground just before the paperwork and all that was done. They can't say they've not had time to plan for. Let's be honest, it's an uninterrupted summer transfer window as well. The window that we had summer just been was a bit of a weird window because of the Euros and the late run times and players being off and longer and bit of a shit show of a window. Let's just call it what it was, because the way that the transfer cycle goes is we need the top 5 league players to move between each other for those players to get replaced by players from our league to go shopping elsewhere, and we don't have that excuse this summer, so there's no reason why feasibly come the end of July, for me this squad should already be majority made up. We might be having to keep a couple of coffers in the bank just in terms of Champions League qualification matches and things like that come with it, but I would assume that the bulk of our business was done by that first or second week of August, and it should just be a few waifs and strays at the end of the window. Needs to be
done. We get Champions League qualifiers that we absolutely desperately make sure that we get through and get the cash in. So last couple of things from me, guys. Right, so listen, if you've enjoyed the show, there's over 400 of you watching, so much appreciated. Like and subscribe. The gaffer's been working really hard in the background. He's actually got a manager candidate series coming out. He's been scouring through Instagram, LinkedIn, X, looking for people who are close to a manager candidate. So he's actually managed to get 5 interviews done so far. So if you watch the Matt Miyoko interview, it's going to be a similar caliber to that. We'll be looking to get to sources close to our potential candidates for manager and finding out what they're really like and how they would fit in with the Ibrox regime. So please like and subscribe, and you can follow these. These will be coming out and getting released gradually over the next couple of weeks or so. Last bit of housekeeping, our match sponsor, I keep saying that, our pod sponsor, Off to the Match I Go. If you could head over to that, they've got a code Journal 10 there you can see on the screen. That'll get you a discount of 10%. And again, thanks for everyone who's watched there. And as I say, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Thank you. Take care.